Our politics lead now is the voice of America, now the voice of Trump. Trump loyalist Kari Lake says right-wing MAGA TV outlet One America News Network, OAN for short, will now provide free content for Voice of America and other government-funded international broadcasters. Kari Lake, of course, the senior advisor at the United States Agency for Global Media. In a social media post, she writes, quote, "This idea came about after the Office of Cuba Broadcasting suggested we explore OAN as a news feed option for the Miami-based U.S. government-funded news operation broadcasting to Cuba." A reminder, OAN had to settle a defamation lawsuit with voting technology company Smartmatic due to OAN's repeated lies about the 2020 election. My political panel joins me now. Brian, I get the conservative complaints about media being liberal, okay? Is the solution to those problems to put OAN as the voice of America? I mean, in other words, is this correcting the problem, or is this just making it on the other side?
I think it's just doubling down on the problem. We do not want the government involved in the content of the media. We just don't.
So you don't think Voice of America should exist?
No, I actually don't think Voice of America. Voice of America as it is today should not exist. I think the technology has made some changes to it. I think the content has sort of geared a little bit more left than it should have. And I don't think the course correction of gearing it to the right is even better. Listen, I think from the standpoint of, I understand why the administration is doing this. We need to provide this alternate voice, not alternate news, but this additional voice, and that's the platform. It's not a platform I think anybody should be involved in, but there's their decision.
What do you think, Ashley?
I mean, I think, just if you don't mind me making this very plain for the American people, one of my favorite lines in the Austin Power flick is when Dr. Evil was frozen, he's defrosted, he comes out and he says to number two, "What have you been doing since I've been gone?" And he said, "I bought up all the media." And he says, "Well, that's the dumbest SHIT I've ever heard. Why would you do such a thing?" And his point was, if you control the inputs, you control the outputs. And that's what we're seeing. And I think Donald Trump understands the art of manipulation better than anyone in politics. You can see that happening. That's why he brought in Mark Zuckerberg and the social media platforms so that they're no longer fact checking. You got, Elon Musk tampering with the algorithms. He's intimidating traditional media with the lawsuits, all these other things. So he understands the art of manipulating. Sorry?
But isn't Voice of America sort of pushing out American propaganda anyway? Like, we're communicating with Cuba.
But I think this is going to be a Trump propaganda, not American propaganda, which is very different. So I think they're going to use it to perpetuate Trump propaganda.
I think it's more intended to be something of a wire service that does cover the good and the bad of America, while also just demonstrating that we have debate and we have freedom of speech.
But it's still, at the end of the day, it's done to deliver a message to communities that would not have this message, to hear our message. Whether you want to call it propaganda or not, our message is being delivered to Cuba because Cuba does not have any level of transparency in media, and they're getting this message. At the end of the day, it's all propaganda.
We're just
now making it right-wing propaganda instead of left-wing.
The information to its
But she's
people.
misinformed there.
I just find that telling.
Well, let's move on to another topic, Ashley. I know it's your favorite topic. In a wide-ranging interview with the BBC, former President Joe Biden did his first TV interview since his presidency. He was asked about his decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. Asked basically if he should have dropped out sooner. Take a listen.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. Things move so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away, it was a hard decision.
So I think your earpiece wasn't working. So he's asked, should you have been withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger job? And Biden says, I don't think it would have mattered. Things move so quickly that made it difficult to walk away and it was a hard decision. So he's saying it was a hard decision to withdraw. I have talked to a lot of Democrats. I have this book coming out in a week and 6 days, who think not only should he have gotten out immediately after the debate, so June 28th, but he should never run for re-election to begin with. Okay. What do you think?
I think it was the president's decision to make, Joe Biden, and he made his decision.
Yeah.
I think we're at a critical inflection point within the Democratic Party. We can either continue to look backwards and allow this issue to paralyze us as a party, or we can move forward and decide we need to take full advantage of this opportunity, unprecedented opportunity that Donald Trump has presented the party to build a broader coalition, to draw a distinction with with the way we would govern versus the way that he would govern, to cast a wider net and bring more voters to the table. I mean, you've got a situation where Donald Trump's underwater on every issue. So, the other thing I think is very interesting, Jake, I love you and appreciate you, but the former president talked about some really important things in that interview. And I hate for the conversation to stay mired in sort of a page 6 conversation about who said what, did what, versus what he really talked about, the substance of what he talked about in that interview, the consequences for what Donald Trump's foreign policy means for the American people. I mean, we're in a situation now where the world is more dangerous than it was before he was president.
He was talking a lot about foreign policy. He was talking about the NATO alliance. He was talking. I mean,
it was an incredibly
that was the newest thing. That was the new. Yes, it was substantive.
Yeah.
It was also stuff we've been hearing from him for the last 20 years.
And a little bit of sort of, I made my decision when I made it. Kind of a dynamic.
Brian, I think you and I agree that the Democratic Party needs to have some sort of reckoning about the Biden presidency, especially the last year and a half of it.
The answer is they need to do it for themselves, because if they don't, we're going to define it. At the end of the day, we're going to highlight the fact that this fraud took place, that Joe Biden, it's funny, he says in the comment that the world moves too fast. Well, when you're moving at Joe Biden's pace, a snail is fast, right? And when he says, the walking fast, he's not walking fast. I mean, people have, if they don't cure this issue for themselves, and it is a trust issue. Trump gets away with a lot. I don't think the Democrats get away with that much. But if they don't cure this issue, we're going to bring it up, and we're going to continue to highlight. We're going to continue to highlight that with real national security concerns, with real effects that affect real people, some guy who's supposed to be in the Oval Office doing the job was incapable of it, and staff propped it up. That's a problem. We should be investigating.
Okay, Ashley, last word.
The only thing I would say is I don't disagree with you. I made an argument on Politico's podcast just last week that we need an autopsy from the party. We have yet to get that autopsy. I think this has to be part of what they deliver to the Democratic Party and to the nation, explaining what happened and what consequences.
I got that autopsy coming for you in 1 week and 6 days.
Can't wait to read it.
Ashley and Brian, thanks to both of you.